Aha!
Already you forgot.
Well, I'm almost 50, so that happens. Let's see. No, wrong color, I think. It's not red one? Well, it's not staying on. Oh, look. Oh! Okay, let's see. Who should I pick on? You're supposed to pat at it.
It goes
That way, oh, okay. Well, Yambio, now I'm going to have to hold this really steady. Yambio is right about that part of South Sudan, that general area. And so my time actually ended up cut short. I was supposed to be there the bulk of the month teaching, and it ended up being just around almost 2 weeks, much shorter than planned. I don't have quite as many pictures of my time in South Sudan, primarily because I didn't really go anywhere. I mean, I was there on the campus. There was one time, shortly after I arrived, they took me in town for a beer, the head of the seminary and that was it. And it was kind of funny because riding on a motorcycle, he was short and kind of chunky, and I'm just, compared to the people in general, quite big. And so we're sitting on this small motorcycle riding into town, and people kind of looking over at us, kind of laughing. I think the fender was riding on the tire between the two of us. Probably a good 500 or so pounds on that bike. Okay, so teaching in South Sudan. Actually, it turned out a couple weeks ago I got an email. They're looking for pastors to go over and teach now for the most recent crop of students, but I don't think that's in the offing. I think, if nothing else, Lizzie would just go to pieces. It would not be a pretty sight. So, anyway, next slide. Well, actually, now you can sort of see. Let's see. There we go. Where did it go? There is Gambia, that area right there. So it's just over the border, and from Uganda there, it took about 8 hours, I think, to fly that route. Sudan went through 30 plus years of civil war. Shortly after I got there, or shortly before I got there, about a year beforehand, there was they decided to split the country in half. The north, primarily Arab and Muslim. The south, primarily black and a mixture of Christian, Muslim, and local animist religions. And unfortunately, there's infighting within the country itself, so still quite unsettled. Next. Took some pictures on the way to the seminary. So there's downtown. You can see all the motorcycles. Just like downtown Waterloo, isn't it? I mean the potholes, but you can see the ditch. I mean, when I had the car accident, it was a similar ditch like that our car went into. So. And you can tell the color of the soil. I mean, it's a tropical region. I don't know how fertile the soil really is, but it's not. I mean, stuff grows there. Obviously, it's tropical, but it's not the dark black soil that we're used to here in Iowa, and it's not the red soil of Kansas. It's kind of a brownish.
Which it means it does not retain water.
Doesn't retain water. Okay, doesn't retain water very well. Okay. All right. Next. Oh, the suburbs. This is like a Klinger. I got permission to use Klinger.
I haven't seen anything like that in Klinger.
In Klinger? Well, you haven't been home in a while, so. But, yeah.
How many people live there in the city?
That is a good question. I would have to ask.
What do they do for a living?
That is a very good question. I do not know how many people. I'd have to ask Siri or Google or whatever.
Is it mostly agriculture that supports the community?
I think so, primarily. I mean, it's not, as you can tell from the downtown shot, it's not highly developed in terms of economically developed. Yeah, I think it's heavily agrarian, be my guess. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, I think kind of that hunter-grazer, there used to be vista plains and stroke and herding. But
Yeah.
then they discovered oil.
Well, yeah, in the border region between Sudan and South Sudan, there's oil. It's just like Beverly Hillbillies. So they loaded up the truck and went to Beverly Hills, that is. Swan Bulls movie stars. Yeah, there's oil in the border region, which is ongoing disputes in that. Yeah.
Are those rocks in the ditch or is that garbage?
That's a good question. I don't have my glasses on. It could be a mixture of most likely garbage or organic leaves, stuff like that. I don't think rocks.
That's Yamio, right?
Yeah, this is
And
Yambio.
Its population 45,685.
Oh, there you go. Oh, its population 45,685, you know. Of course, yeah. As of yesterday. But, and here again, much like with Kampala, of course, this is Kampala's capital city. This obviously isn't. So 45,000, how many live in, like Waterloo, Cedar Falls? How about Cedar Falls, just Cedar Falls?
40,000.
About 40,000, okay. So this is like Cedar Falls. And you have some, I mean, you have some buildings, you know, brick and mortar buildings. Yeah, Traylon. Where's my house?
Where's that house?
Not there. Oh, where's this house? This house is in a country called South Sudan, over on the African continent. It looks like what? My hearing is shot. Can you translate, Barry? I can't quite make it up.
It looks different, doesn't it?
It was like in the King Kong movie, right?
At least it looks like it.
Yeah, on Skull Planet, yeah. But I mean, you know, this is, like I said, the suburbs heading out into the more rural area. People living in these types of dwellings. I think the walls are probably, you know, mud with, you know, stick and mud type, and with the thatched roof. And in town, you have more brick and mortar type construction, but you know what? I'm guessing, you know, what do they do for occupation? You know, it varies. I honestly don't know. Probably agricultural. I mean, there are different, city of 45,000, there's different types of work that people do. A lot of people, they vend their vendors for whatever they can sell, they can get a hand on. It was actually on my way back, I noticed there was a lady sitting by the road and she was filling up Pepsi bottles and putting caps on them. She was selling Pepsi.
I doubt it was Pepsi.
I'm not going to ask. Yes, Jan.
What the healthcare arrangements are like, is there fund it.
Very, you know, honestly, I don't entirely know. A lot of it, I think, is UN aid based. For a time, the seminary ran a medical clinic, and actually at the seminary, there's a shipping container that had a lot of medical supplies that had been donated. Eventually, it just kind of didn't end up going anywhere, so the stuff just sits there, unfortunately. But there is probably well, I know there is a place where you could get, you know, a dispensary for certain medication, because I got sick over there, upset stomach, you know, and one of the students who had some basic medical training, he hopped on the motorcycle, went, and he got me some medicine to settle my stomach, and I trusted him. Take this. I felt sick enough, sure, I'll take a shot. I think it was a little, it didn't look commercially made, but a little round pill, yeah. Gene.
So do you think it would be like almost impossible to distribute a COVID vaccine over there?
I mean, they could. You know, if it got there, I mean, I'm sure they could figure out a way to do it. But, you know, it's a different way of life, definitely. A lot of poverty. Yeah, Kevin.
Two quick notes. The Waverly and Waterloo Rotary Clubs got a hold of some used, non-usable anesthesia equipment. It took 3 years to get it over there, but it's over there now and being used. It really did, well, necessary too. And then Beth and I met a medical missionary from a Christian group that goes over once a year, and his stories are just really gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
How there's not enough supplies or service. They go from one village to another. The line is miles long. At the end of the day, of course, they have to stop and get some sleep. The people are not disgruntled. They just say, "Where will you be tomorrow?"
Yeah.
And they walk all night to be to the next place.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think it's good for us to realize we've got it really, really, really easy. We just, in our country, even those, I'm making sort of a broad statement, which isn't really the best to do, but in many respects, even those in our society who are poor, by these standards, are rich. In terms of services that are available. And like you said, people, you know, would walk all night to go to see a doctor and stand in line all day waiting, hoping to be seen. And there may or may not be enough medical supplies. It's what's there.
We in Waterloo have it great for medical supplies, facilities. Rochester, 100 miles away.
Yeah.
Iowa City, 85.
Yep.
2 good hospitals in Waterloo, and I think a good facility in Mason City.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're very blessed in that respect. I mean, this is South Sudan. You're talking the poorest of the poor in the world. I mean, really, when it comes right down to it. I mean, you talk about dirt poor, that's the dirt. Yeah, Faith.
Are there very many different tribes like they used to be?
Yeah.
Their own community is with one tribe and another community with another tribe.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have as much of a sense of it in our country anymore, but we're the same way. But yeah, different tribes, different people groups. Usually, largely defined by language, I think. And you know, it's less so now here than it was in the past when you would have, even now, Chinatown, Chinese community. You'd have, you know, an Italian village. You'd have German. I mean, Raymer County. It doesn't get much German than Raymer County. I mean, and then the Swedes moved in, and oh dear. But yeah, different. In fact, and unfortunately, I lost it. I had all the students because they were from different parts of the country. I wanted them to write down their names and then the tribe that they're from. And then I ended up losing that, unfortunately. But there was one gentleman, I think it's called the Dinka tribe. And you may have seen on National Geographic, but the Dinka tribe, what sort of distinguishes them is they're not birthmarks, but they create sort of a scar pattern on their front of their skulls. And that distinguishes them. You see that, oh, they're Dinka. And I think they're primarily a herdsmen. I think I actually put a picture in here at some point. But as you can see, I was very thankful about the Western toilet. Because otherwise, you know, next. Taxi. Arrived at the airport, bunch of guys. And here again, this reminds me of the parable of the workers for the vineyard. You know, they're sitting around, they're waiting for someone to hire them. And the plane only comes once a week, I think, to a city of 45,685 to deliver mail and whatever else. So primary means of transportation, taxi is a motorcycle. Next. Okay, Lutherans, we like long acronyms. Concordia Lutheran Institute for Holy Ministry of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Sudan, which is now the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Sudan / South Sudan. And I think it was established probably about 10 years before I went, around 1999, I think. The WES, West Equatorial State, is the region within South Sudan. Okay, next slide. And the future and now shepherds of Christ's flock in South Sudan. I wish I could remember all the guys' names. I really do. Unfortunately, I can't. But a wonderful group of men.
You're on the ceiling.
I'm on the ceiling. Well, I'm trying to get off the ceiling. Where are you?
You went for it.
It should be.
There it is.
There, okay. This guy, I remember, is from the Nuba mountain region, and the Sudanese government has been heavily bombing that area. I mean, there's nothing there. Why, but they heavily bombed the area. This guy, I called him Joseph. He has 12 kids. Yeah.
Approximately how old was he, do you know?
I have no idea, but they look very much younger than me. I honestly don't know what their ages are.
I was thinking 12 children, I mean.
Well, you start early. I mean, really,
Yeah, once a year.
well, this guy, David, I remember his name. Oh, no, there's the gentleman who was from the Dinka tribe. Tall gentleman. This guy, I think, is Daniel. I think he had typhoid when I first got there. And then he got better. And there's this guy and I, we were the two on the motorcycle going into town. And it wasn't a large hog. It was a smaller one. This guy, Thomas, talk about humble. He insisted on washing my laundry. I couldn't stop. I don't need to do that. He wanted to do it. Okay. This is Charles. He's the one who went on the motorbike to get me medicine. Charles Casamilio. And this is Francis right there. I've kept in touch with those two a little bit over the years. He started an orphanage with all the orphans and as part of his ministry and that. So,
Pastor,
yeah.
when you were talking about orphans, was that mainly parents died or couldn't support, so the children were left, or was it?
A combination.
Okay.
Parental death from disease, whether it's typhoid, malaria. I don't think they have Ebola there, but when I went, I had to have 6 shots, inoculation shots, to go to South Sudan. So basically, if you could get it, it's there.
Did they have HIV then, back then?
Oh yeah. HIV has ravaged the African continent. So a lot of it is parents died. You also have cases where, for whatever reason, if parents aren't able to care for the kids, warfare has caused displacement. A lot of refugee settlement camps, and disease spreads through there and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, Nancy.
Were these men just from South Sudan, or were they from different countries around?
They were all from South Sudan, except I had 2 Davids. This, David Uganda. Called him that because he's from Uganda. And actually, he was very skilled. When I was there, he built a set of bookshelves for their library. You've had those, like a trimming saw, the pipe that's in almost like a triangle shape with
I don't have one.
well, you've seen them. A bow saw, yeah, a bow saw. He was sitting on the ground, a big plank of mahogany, sawing, that's the only thing he could do. I felt so bad for these guys because they're separated from their families. There is cell phone service, and usually you buy your time, pay as you go, but they didn't have phones, neither did their wives, but a friend might have a phone. Anyway, when I got back, I raised up money, sent it to them, so they could buy phones to keep in touch with their family. But David Uganda, he asked, instead of a phone, he wanted to buy woodworking tools, hand planes, things like that, because part of what he was doing was giving trade skills to young men, young boys growing up, so that they could support themselves, because he could see the damage that was done by people living prolonged periods in the settlement, the refugee encampments. It creates an unhealthy dependency. And so he was really pushing in favor of that, trying to teach these young men to be able to support themselves and give them a trade. Yeah, Jan and then Rita Ruth.
So I'm thinking these are educated gentlemen that are here. What is the educational, how educated?
Okay, good question. Yes, they are educated. Now, part of it is a language difference, but they all speak English very well. I'm going to guess that, I'm going to say maybe a 6th grade level.
Is this through the church?
Lutheran Heritage Foundation and the local church there.
Their education coming up is through the church?
Probably not. Probably government school. Maybe through the church. I don't know.
And then like other libraries, like where do you go to?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. A lot of the teaching, like you saw in Uganda, there may be a schoolhouse with a bunch of benches and a teacher. You know, it's the old one-room schoolhouse thing that we used to have. You know, for the most part, I think not everybody, a lot of people, they get a basic education, learn English, you know, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. You know, I went over to teach a seminary class. And so I was prepared to teach a seminary class. I found out pretty quickly that that wasn't quite going to work. And here again, part of it was the language thing. I ended up making the test very, very basic. Because the first test I did, it just didn't go well. And how much of that was, you know, miscommunication with, you know, English not being their primary language, how much was it, you know, level of education up to this point, I don't know. But you got to start somewhere. You got to build those building blocks and going forward. Rita.
The gentleman that has the clerical collar, is he the head of the institute?
Yeah, at the time he was the head of the seminary. He was a pastor from the church in Kenya.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Ruth, did you have something?
Yeah, Pastor, I wondered if it gets real hot and humid.
Oh, yes. Oh, dear, yes. One of the best things I had, somebody before I left, they give me one of those little battery-operated fans. That and Gold Bond. Good stuff. Gold Bond powder. Yeah, hot and humid, especially during this time of the year. I mean, like any tropical, you have the dry season, you have the wet season. This was, I think, the dry season. Next slide. There is the church/seminary. The class is held in the church building, and you know, brick and mortar, metal roof, built through, you know, generous funding, because they wouldn't have been able to afford it on their own, basically. And the huts that I showed you were pretty much across the road from the church. Next slide. We're going to, okay, outside of, let's see, let me see. Yeah, I think this is another angle of the church. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually where the bishop is buried. Andrew Elisa, who I knew, he died the year before I went over, and he's buried right outside the church.
Pastor?
Yeah.
In comparison, I have trouble visualizing sizes and things like that. About approximately how big was the church, like if you compare it to the Hillary Center here?
About the same.
I'd say about the same. Yeah. Yeah, about roughly the same length. Ballpark. We'll see inside here next. Okay, next picture. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, well, there's a cross up front, but there's 2 ceiling fans.
So there's electricity in the church?
In that one, yeah, when the generators got gas. All those pews are solid mahogany. I was drooling. The shutters are solid mahogany. It's all rough cut because it's, I mean, you're talking, over here it'd be very, very expensive wood, but behold, I am at the door and I knock, from Revelation, I believe. And then let the little children come unto me and do not hinder them.
Are those paintings or statues?
They are paintings. Paintings on the plaster, render, mud, whatever walls. So.
Is there a baptismal font?
Not in the picture at least.
Or is that done outside?
You know, that is a good question. I do not know.
Maybe they do it outside.
I know before I went over, there was, in the Lutheran Heritage Foundation, Pastor Elisa used to travel place to place to place. In one place, he baptized 150. And he had a donkey with a barrel that carried the water for the baptisms. I remember that. Okay. I think if I remember it, I think I got to preach there that one Sunday, and we had communion.
What's the colored stuff up around the fans?
Decorations.
Japanese lanterns?
Pardon?
Japanese lanterns?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's whatever gets donated and ends up over. Well, yeah, it's not. It's like really big, like the stuff, the tinsel that you put around your tree, except it's much bigger. That kind of material. So, but very colorful in that. Okay, next picture. Oh, up close-up picture of that.
Were those done by people up in the church?
I'm assuming.
Wow.
I'm assuming that. And then you can go to the next one. Yeah. I mean, we have beautiful stained glass windows, but I think these are absolutely gorgeous as well. You get a little bit closer picture of what the.
I thought I saw stained glass windows even in the ceiling.
No, it's it's glittery foil. It's like you put around your Christmas tree type stuff. Yeah, it's big garlands of that kind of stuff that are hung there. Okay, next picture. Oh yeah. The only stitch of clothes that boy has is a pair of underpants that he's wearing. This time. Next time he had a shirt but no underpants. No. Cute little kids. I just wanted to take them home with me. You know, just adorable. They were from living across the way there. I think the little boy there, I think the month earlier, I think a sibling of his had died. That the pastor professor that was there before I was, did the funeral. A lot of people die young. Malaria, other diseases. This little guy, they would hang around when I had class. And we did class, I think it was like 9 to 11, and then 1 to 3 or something like that. And in the middle of the day, you don't do squat because it is just so beastly hot and humid. So, but 4 hours a day. And anyway, they were running around, they fell, and I heard them crying. And, so I go out there, and the skin scraped his little knee, and I had some wet ones, some wipes with me. What can you do? But I thought, well, at the very least, I'll clean his sore. That poor little guy, I probably wiped a week's worth of dirt off of his knee before I got to. I sanitized the wound, but it's the thought. I felt better for doing it, but just cute little guys. Next slide. The church bell. Yeah, it's a hollowed out log. You whack it, and makes a good loud sound. Also works as a pretty good bench. I don't know what kind of wood that is. It might be teak. Not really sure, but anyway.
Where's the banger?
Right here.
Really?
Yeah, you just
Oh my goodness.
hit it with your hand. Yeah. Okay, next. And this was class. Solid mahogany furniture. I keep saying that, don't I? Oh, I wish I could have taken some of that wood home. Oh. And these guys would sit on those benches for 4 hours listening to me. So no complaining.
Yeah, Pastor, our mom, she grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
And she always went to, in elementary school, a one-room.
One-room schoolhouse. My dad did
She
as
went
well.
to school in Maya.
Yeah.
She went home another mile. So 2 miles.
My dad walked 1 mile to school and 2 miles home. I'm teasing, but anyway, when I first got there, and I was teaching away, and maybe one or two of the students was taking notes. And I thought, well, maybe it's just a cultural thing. I'm assuming they're listening. They didn't have paper. They didn't have paper, for crying out loud. And you think, I came away with, how much paper do we waste? I mean, Gene, you take care of our recycling. They didn't have paper to take notes on. Or if they did, they may not have had a pen or a pencil. They had gotten some pens, but the ink had dried out on them. And so they were useless.
Doesn't look like there are very many books either.
No, not a whole lot of books. No.
Would they have access to their own scripture?
I think most of these guys probably had their own Bible, if I remember correctly. Probably in English. Next slide. Kitchen. That's where our meals were made.
Looks like something was really cooking on them.
Oh, it is. It's really probably boiling, thankfully.
What are some of the standby, old standard meals?
Cassava beans, made in some fashion. Sometimes the matuke, boiled bananas. Did have some type of soup, rice, bread, rice and bread. Rice probably delivered by the UN. Bread that would be baked locally. Again, flour probably from the UN. Tea. You'd be amazed how many cups of tea you can get from one tea bag. See? Yeah, She said, see?
How about protein? Probably from the beans, was there like goat or dog?
Not a whole lot of meat. Not a whole lot. There was this rooster that would tend to wake me up, and then last day or so, there wasn't a rooster, but we did have chicken soup. Chicken had a hard life. Good source of water? No. No running water. Either it's maybe if you boil it. You pray that it's boiled. eggs, maybe, peanut butter. I think I brought the jar of peanut butter to have with. A lot of rice, a lot of bread. A lot of rice, a lot of bread. And then if you want something a little bit different, little rice and a little bread. Actually, have any of you ever had field corn?
By accident.
Yeah, by accident. You wouldn't do it on purpose. They did have some corn growing, and actually, unfortunately, this coincided with me getting sick. It wasn't from the corn, but they, unfortunately, it was not sweet corn, but we're accustomed to as sweet corn. It was field corn. And it was roasted. They just kind of stick it in the coals so it comes out charred. Tough, chewy. You know what the sweet corn is like when it gets doughy towards the end of the season? Multiply the doughiness by about 10. Yeah, and then I got sick that same day, unfortunately. But different fruit, that grows. But there again, doggone, we're just spoiled. We really are. We're just so spoiled. I mean, it's a very, very basic diet, not a whole lot of choices.
We can be thankful to God that
we should be thankful to God.
Live over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
And wasn't that the same diet that they were probably eating 500 years before that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Except for the rice.
Yeah, we have it very good.
We've got it very easy, and yet we complain. It's a bit relative, but anyway, next slide. Those are the dormitory where the students lived, and the necessary. You know what the necessary is, don't you? Yeah. Well, it was just on the other end of this building. I'm pushing the button. There. It's just over this area. Okay.
Mike will have a class in that tomorrow for you.
Okay. All right. Next one.
Did you stay there too?
No, actually, I stayed in the guest house. The seminary operates a guest house, like a hotel, and so I was in a separate building from them.
Right?
I'm sorry?
With your own private bathroom?
No, I had no private bathroom, unfortunately, but my own private room.
Western plumbing?
Not in the buildings. The only Western plumbing was the Western toilet in the little shed with the tin roof. That was the extent of Western plumbing. Yeah. Okay, next. The library. Yep. All books donated, pastors' libraries donated, and they would eventually ship over there. Unfortunately, with the high humidity, I don't know how long a lot of these books will last. I did find a copy of Johann Gerhardt's Loci Theologiki, which means absolutely nothing to you, but it meant a lot to me. It was in German, from like the 1800s. Some pastor had, donated it. But so that was the seminary library. A lot of good books in it. How much, the students at that point able to make use of it, don't know. But it's you got to start somewhere and you grow from there. Yeah.
When you were teaching, what were your topics and what do people want to know and need to know?
They go through. I taught the Gospel of John, but they're taken through a sort of a full seminary course, just like the seminary courses here, the same topics. They're, you kind of adjust the topic for previous education level, but to try and give a full seminary education to these men to prepare them. Okay, next slide. That's where I stayed. That was the guest house, and let me see if I can. I think this was my room, if I remember right. I think it was that window. Okay,
What is
next.
that comes out the side of the building that's white?
That thing? No idea.
It's like a satellite.
Oh, it might be a satellite, yeah, because there was an office. The rector's office was there. So yeah, I think it was a satellite dish.
Oh,
Do you have electricity in there?
When there's gas for the generator. In the evening, for an hour, maybe, depending on how much gas for the generator. Okay, next. This is my room. You can see the mosquito netting. You have to sleep with mosquito netting because of mosquitoes, malaria. Another little nasty are these little ants. They have the ants that you ever see on the Nature Channel where they can devour like a whole cow. Yeah, they have those. Yeah, I woke up one morning, I go out the back door and I get ready to step out, and the head of the seminary, no, very dangerous, very dangerous. Scare me to death. Oh my, and they got snakes and all kinds of, but
Did you see it?
I had some 100% DDT stuff and other spray all the way around my floor on my bed.
Pastor, did
Yeah.
you by any chance see any cockroaches?
No cockroaches. No, I think those are all in Florida. Yeah, no cockroaches, just man-eating ants.
Oh.
And
Oh dear. Yeah, Rita, we don't like the insects.
no, I don't either. I was just going to show you here. This is my trash can. They did have bottled water, so I could get bottled water. But I think they had it basically for me, being a Westerner. But anyway, it drove me nuts. And this is the sad thing about at least the part of the African continent that I saw, is also drives me crazy with the kids too. Anyway, you deal with something you just trash drives me bonkers. And my Western mind is thinking, designate a spot and make a landfill. Please. Just pick I don't care, just pick a spot and put everything there. And I was gonna do my little part. And so I kept my trash, and the lady would come in and sweep the floor, and she didn't have a broom, she had a handful of long, anyway, she's not like that. Sweeping, felt sorry for her. Bending over, but it's what you're used to. I was eating breakfast one morning, and she was in cleaning the rooms, and happened to look out, and she had my bag of trash. And she's going out the back of the guest house into sort of the weeds there, and she just emptied it out there, and I thought, well, what's the point? I tried, but it just anyway. Next slide. Yeah, that was my bed. That was my bed. That's right. It was very comfortable, except for the one board of the slat that was a little higher than the other ones. Yeah. So, and yes, it would get very hot, very humid. Okay, next slide. Yeah, 4-post bed. Next slide. Oh, I think I have the name right, pow, but a type of fruit. And this is the back side of the guest house. I think I may have another picture here, but these are the shower facilities. Yeah. You just don't want to touch the walls. I'm sorry, but it's plastered, but it was, I don't know if it was mold or dirt, but and they would take water out of the little pond and heat it up in a 55-gallon drum, and then a wash basin, put the water in, and then that's, you're in a small cube room, and that's where you shower, but you're warned, don't let the water get in your mouth or your eyes, any open, because of, disease, waterborne disease. So I use a lot of hand wipes. Yeah. But nice shade tree, and I think it was a pow. I think that was the name of it. Would sit under there and a house. So next slide. I don't know how well you can see, but after the morning's teaching, my shirt was just saturated with sweat because of the heat and humidity. So you get to see my dirty laundry. And it matched the door color. Did you see that? The blue? Who knew? Okay. Next. Yep, that's the shower. And it's a 2-staller, I think. But yeah, you can see kind of narrow confined. And actually, if I remember, I think it's a shower and I think it was a full bath. I think there's a sort of a squatty in the room over. I can't remember, but anyway, a lot of Gold Bond, a lot of wipes, and you make sure you have something on your feet. So next, yeah, laundry. Those are the outhouses off the where the student dorms were. And I think it's that one right in the middle, of course it'd be in the middle, is where the western toilet was that had the lock. You had to get a key for the padlock. And the plumbing, just pipe stuck out the back of it wasn't hooked up, well, you had to fill it with water to fill up the tank and all that. But.
Where are they washing the laundry that they're hanging there by the outhouses?
Yeah, out behind the house. Same thing, and heated up water in a 55-gallon drum, put in a rubber wash basin, and wash it. And these are pretty nice facilities by local standards, really. Next. Oh yeah, you're asking about electricity. This is the local utility. That's the generator. And you'd have electricity for maybe an hour in the evening if they had gas for the generator.
Propane?
No, gasoline gas. Yeah. Well, you want to charge up your phone or listen to the radio or whatever? Okay. Next. Oh yeah, peekaboo. Those are the two little kids. They kind of, as little kids do, they were curious and they kind of poked their heads through the window. They stole my heart. Next. Sitting on the church bell. Yeah. A much younger Pastor Kane who didn't look 80. You believe, Samantha? You're 49? I don't know. Oh, that child. Okay. Next. Oh, yeah, my little buddy. Yeah. He came up to me one day and I think took my leg. I forget. It's been so long ago, hard to remember. But just like I said, you just want to grab him in your arms and bring him home.
Pastor, do you know what happened to him?
No idea. Hopefully they're still alive. It's a dangerous life. They may get malaria and die. They get kidnapped. Don't know.
Were these children of the ones who were in the seminary?
No, not of the students, no. No, their families long way off, separated.
They're orphans, huh?
No, these are just neighborhood kids.
Oh.
How old are these little guys?
These guys, oh, he's probably maybe 4, something like that. Ed, 12 years, 16. Yeah. So I just wanted to, bundle them up and take them home with me. But anyway. All right, next. Yeah, rush hour. Roland. This should make you feel right at home. Longhorns. Yeah, Longhorns, yeah. Yeah, we were in class one day, and next thing you know, these are going down the road.
Most of the Longhorns we see down there, you can't see the bones.
No, that's kind of a rough life, yeah.
And they don't use them for food?
Probably not until they're advanced in years. You probably use, I mean, it's like most farmers. You raise them primarily, for their milk, and then you eat the old. Once they, like you cook you wait till the rooster's, done his, till he can't crow anymore. That's a very nice way of putting it. And then he ends up being chicken soup. That's another thing. We're accustomed to having meat all the time. Most parts of the world, meat is a delicacy. It's a treat maybe once or twice a year. The Old Testament, a lot of times, meat was for a feast day or a sacrifice day. You don't slaughter your animals. You raise them primarily for milk or wool. You do occasionally for meat, but you're very economical about it.
Aren't they sacred animals?
Here, not as far as I know. India, yeah. India, because of Hinduism, they're considered like your grandpa or some other relative that ended up higher up the food chain than the fly on the back. Yeah, Jan.
Wasn't ownership of cattle signed the whole thing?
Yeah.
As opposed to money.
Yeah.
They're on a barter system. Is that common?
Well, it's both and. They have currency in Sudan. It's not worth anything, but they have currency. They want American money. But, yeah, for marriages, you still have to have a dowry. And we don't have that anymore. But, yeah, you gotta have a dowry, and, pay a dowry for a wedding, to get married. And so that prevents some from getting married when they would want to, because they don't have money for the dowry, or they don't have enough, goats or cattle. But yeah, livestock is a sign of wealth. Okay, next. I went swimming. Well, no, that's not me. That must have been my last slide. Okay, that was my last slide. So, anyway, yeah, Kevin.
Could I just, and maybe you want to address this some other time, but what are the origins of Christianity in the Sudan? Was it the 17th, 18th century missionaries, or were there some Coptic Christians that came down the Nile? I'm just curious.
Most likely, the Sudan covers a large area. You have the Queen of Sheba that came to see Solomon. It's believed by some that, she wasn't from Ethiopia, she was actually further inland, basically Sudan. I honestly don't know. I think Christianity in general, especially before the Muslim, the coming of Muhammad and the Arabians sweeping across North Africa. North Africa was one of the main areas of Christianity. And how far into south of the Sahara they got, I don't really know. But yeah, probably some Coptic. Ethiopia, long history as a Christian country, and Sudan is right next door to Ethiopia. So.
Is the Roman Catholic Church a force or presence there?
Yeah. Actually, they just had a bishop who some guys broke into his house and shot him in the legs. Yeah. And I think that was in Juba or South or Yambio, someplace like that. Yeah, rebel group broke in. I don't know if they were Islamic militants, but that was on the news recently. Yeah. Roman Catholics, I think Anglicans.
Any Lutheran churches?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what I was there for. Yeah. Yeah, Lutheran. Yeah, Lutheran. Yep. Any other questions? We don't want to leave you in the dark. Well, thank you for letting me share my experience with you. It's a lot of fun, and at some point I'll get together Israel. Yeah, and probably break that up into several, because I have not only the dig site, but also different locations that I visited. Have a wonderful week.
Yeah, you
Thank you.
enjoy your birthday.
I sure will. Yeah, my